Let's start this week's meal with a lunch. Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Vicki and you're with Graham in the kitchen. Today we're going to make lunch as our first meal. I have 1 quart-sized jar of bean and bacon I made several years ago. This is the last one we have. In a couple weeks, we're actually going to be doing a whole week of canning. There are things I need to replenish on my shelf, and doing it a day here and a day there is not working for me. So I took a whole week off of work just so we can stay home, stay in the kitchen, and do the things we need to do. But back to this video, we're going to have bean and bacon soup with grilled cheese sandwich. And we're using our homemade sourdough bread. So this is a loaf of bread I made yesterday. If I need it, we'll use it. But I have a partial of a loaf right here that I want to use first. So I'm going to spread some butter on one side of each of these breads. So I have the soup in this saucepan on a medium to medium low heat. That's in between medium and low, but closer to the medium. I want to warm that up. I have the cast iron griddle. On 2 burners, also on a medium to medium low heat. I want to get that nice and hot before we add our bread. We're going to place our bread butter side down. And I have some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. If you have slices, that is fine. But whenever I buy my cheese, I just automatically just go ahead and shred everything. So we add cheese to 4 slices. I'm going to cover with aluminum foil, that way it holds in the heat and it'll melt that cheese better. The back is cooking faster than the front, as always. I'm going gonna turn that front burner off and just leave the back burner on. That way they can cook evenly. Our grilled cheese are ready. All the burners on the stove is turned off. Get a bowl of bean and bacon for the husband. And that's what we're having for lunch today. And then we had a little bit of the split pea soup with Christmas ham left over in the refrigerator. I decided that's what I'm gonna have for lunch. So a super simple, convenient lunch. Sourdough bread, grilled cheese with sharp cheddar cheese, and the husband's having bean and bacon, and I'm having split pea soup. We're gonna have to cook dinner tonight, so I'll bring you back and show you what we're doing this evening. Let me know, what are you having for lunch today? Now it's time to cook dinner. So I took a pack of 4 pork chops. These are boneless pork chops out of the freezer this morning. Actually, I think I took it out of the freezer yesterday. Stuck it in the refrigerator. We're making schnitzels again with mashed potatoes that we have frozen mashed potato balls in the freezer, gravy, and we're gonna have a can of corn. Now we need to make our breading station. So one pan is gonna be flour. I'm just gonna put a 1/2 cup of flour in this pan. We're done. I have some homemade sourdough breadcrumbs. I'm gonna add 1 cup, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Make sure all that is mixed in really well. Perfect. We have 2 eggs and just a small pinch of salt. So I have a piece of plastic wrap on this cutting board. That way it contains the splatter when we're pounding it. So I have a meat mallet. We're gonna go super thin to about 1/4 of an inch pounding these pork chops. Doesn't want to stay inside. I think that looks good. So we're going to go flour, egg, breadcrumbs back to this cutting board. And we're going to try to keep a dry hand and a wet hand. Perfect. I'm going to clean my station. We'll move over to the stove and start frying up some pork chop schnitzels. So I have some coconut oil in this standard size stainless steel skillet. Because if you've been around a while, you know that's what I do my pan frying with. We do not use vegetable oil, canola oil, any kind of other seed oils. We only have avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, and butter. Those are the only 4 fats we use in this house. Occasionally we use bacon fat left over from cooking bacon, but other than that, no other oils. Over here I have the mashed potatoes that were in the freezer. I took them out this morning. I added just a little bit more butter and some salt and pepper. Just letting those heat up. As soon as this oil is hot enough, we'll start frying those schnitzels. I have a drop of water on my fingers. I think we're ready. I'm going to do 2 schnitzels at a time. Pork needs to cook to 145 degrees, so I'm going to cook it about 5 minutes on one side. We'll flip them and cook them for about 3 minutes on the other side. Then we'll check the temperature going in on the side to make sure we reach 145 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and get some gravy started. So I have 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, small pinch of pepper, 2 tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to let that cook for 1 minute. In the meantime, we can take these first schnitzels off of out of this oil, and we can go ahead and add the last 2. And the gravy, let's go ahead and start adding a pint of chicken broth. I'm going to turn that down to a medium-low, because once that broth heats up, it'll activate that roux, and the flour will do its job in thickening that gravy. And the gravy needs a lot of salt and pepper. The schnitzels are done. The potatoes are hot. We're just waiting on the gravy. The corn I just put in this microwave safe bowl. Some butter, salt and pepper. Microwaved it for 2.5 minutes. And dinner is ready. If I had to guess, I would think maybe 30 to 40 minutes from start to finish. And when I say start, I mean gathering all the ingredients such as the flour, the garlic powder, onion powder, egg, the breadcrumbs, the chicken broth to make the gravy. Gathering all the ingredients, pounding out the pork chops for the schnitzels to right now. I would say 30 to 40 minutes and dinner is ready. I enjoy having homemade mashed potato balls in the freezer. We don't have to do the peeling and the dicing and the cooking and all that. Just thaw, heat up, add a little bit more seasoning, and it's ready. I'm going to cut into one of these schnitzels to make sure they are done. Temperature-wise, it says it's done. Perfect. Some mashed potatoes. Put some gravy on the schnitzels. And that's what's for dinner. Let's taste some schnitzels. It was perfectly seasoned. Mashed potatoes and gravy. So delicious, so convenient. So the husband and I are going to sit down and have dinner. Bring it back when we're ready to cook something else in this kitchen. Good morning, family. I hope you have your coffee. I have mine. The husband has his. Let's cook breakfast. If you saw last week's What We Ate in a Week, we made a batch of pancake mix. We're having pancakes today. I have a half pound of bacon. We'll put that in the oven. I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees. I have a bacon sheet lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to arrange the bacon on here so we can get it in the oven. That way we don't have to babysit it, do any flipping and rotating or anything. I love cooking bacon in the oven. Takes about 30 minutes. And this sheet pan will hold a half a pound. Perfect. And we'll put that in the oven. So I have the large bowl on the kitchen scale. I need to weigh out 263 grams of this pancake mix. Perfect. So I have 1¼ cups of milk. We're going to add 1 egg. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. I just want to whisk that enough just to break that egg yolk. Perfect. Pour the wet ingredients with the dry ingredients. And whisk that together. How simple was that? So in the middle of my stove, I have this oblong shaped burner. Decided I want to use that for the griddle. I'm going to see if that works better than using two burners. So I have it on the center burner with the burner on medium. I got about a teaspoon of butter. I want that butter to melt and I want that griddle to be super hot. We're going to do a little test pancake. And again, we're waiting to see some bubbles. The top will dry out just a bit. Then we'll know it's ready to turn. And that will tell us whether the griddle is ready. See how white it is? That tells us our griddle is not ready. Starting to get some color. Now we can move on to making the other pancakes. So we're just going to wait till we see some bubbles along the top and it'll start drying out and it'll tell us that's when it's ready to be flipped. We'll cook the other side. So I'm thinking about 2 to 3 minutes on one side, 1 and 2 minutes on the second side. The baby pancake is ready. So breakfast is ready. Bacon took 30 minutes to cook in the oven, and in that time we were able to make pancake batter. We already have our pre-made dry ingredients, just had to add the wet ingredients. Cook that. Now the husband and I are going to sit down and have breakfast together, drink our coffee. Lunch, we're going to have leftovers from yesterday. We had this soup and grilled cheese sandwich. And as for dinner, we're going to have leftover schnitzels, mashed potatoes, gravy, and corn. We still have enough of that for one more meal. So this is it for today. Bring you back tomorrow. Probably don't have to cook breakfast because we usually have leftover pancakes. Great. I have 24 hours off from the kitchen of cooking meals. I'll see you tomorrow, either lunch or dinner. So it was really nice not having to cook lunch or dinner last night. But you know, there was always dishes anyway. We had our leftover soup. The husband had his bean and bacon, and I ate the rest of the split pea soup with some grilled cheese. So both of those are gone from the refrigerator. Last night we had the leftover schnitzels, the mashed potatoes, the gravy, and the corn. So today we're going to have fettuccine Alfredo with chicken. I went ahead and took a pack of our boneless, skinless chicken breasts out of the freezer 2 days ago. It's been sitting in the refrigerator waiting for us. I enjoy having vegetables in my Alfredo. The husband's not a big fan. So I went ahead and took out a bag of frozen broccoli. I want to get that in the oven so it can start roasting and getting some brown color to it. I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. Plus I have a pot of water on the stove coming to a boil. And I have 8 ounces of fettuccine ready to go. And as I was going through my pasta bin with all the different pastas I have that are store-bought dry pasta, that's the last of the fettuccine. So we need to keep our eyes out on whoever has pasta on sale, because sometimes the stores in my area will have it like buy one, get one free. Need to keep an eye on that so we can start stocking up on our pasta. Yes, family, I know we have a pasta machine and we can do it ourselves. It's just a matter of time. We do have a vacation plan in 2 weeks. My time, 2 weeks. And I'm hoping to get some canning done during that time. And if possible, I would like to go ahead and make my own dry pasta, but that's a journey we'll have to take together. I need to go ahead and get the broccoli in the oven. Now, if you are new here, welcome. Love having you in the family. I buy my parchment paper from Amazon, and this is a 300 square foot. It's actually 15 inches wide by 242 inches. Those ones you get from the store that are like 25 feet doesn't last for me. I always try to pick up the big boys from Amazon. Price, this is not too bad. If I think about it, I'll look up Amazon and I'll put the price right there so you can see it. But I like having backup of my things in the pantry. Matter of fact, let's just go take a tour. So on this top shelf, you can see I have the gallon size Ziploc bag. I have the aluminum foil, the plastic wrap, and right there is my vacuum seal bags. So I just took this out of the pantry this morning, and I like writing the dates on it. That way I know how long it usually lasts me. I usually can get about 3 or 4 months out of one of these. We do a lot of baking, so I know I need to put this on my wish list from Amazon, so when I need to add to it, I can go ahead and buy it. And this is a 10-ounce bag of organic broccoli florets. I picked this up from Lidl's a couple months ago, and it's been in the freezer waiting on us. I'm going to give it a little drizzle of olive oil, a sprinkle of salt, a sprinkle of pepper, and in a 350 degrees oven until they get thawed and cooked a bit, and then we're going to have some char. We'll give it a toss in about like 30 minutes. So the pot of water has not come to a boil yet, but I'm going to give it a good pinch of salt. The best time to season your dry pasta is when you're cooking it. And let that come up to a boil, then we can drop in our pasta. The water is now boiling. We'll make sure that salt is dissolved. And I have 8 ounces of fettuccine. And I want to cook that till it's al dente, which means with a bite. And if you're from my generation or earlier, we were told to add a little bit of oil to our cooking water when we're cooking pasta. I'm telling you, stop doing that. When you're adding oil to your pasta, to the water of your pasta, that oil will adhere to the pasta and it'll prohibit any kind of sauce you want to attach itself. And you're losing flavor because as you're picking up your pasta with your fork trying to eat it, all the sauce is just washing off. And then in the bottom of your bowl or your plate, you're left with a puddle of sauce, which is okay because you can always use bread and sop it up with, but you're losing flavor to your pasta. Pasta is starch. And when that starch heats up, it'll release into the sauce and it'll help it thicken your sauce as well as letting that sauce attach itself to that pasta so you get more flavor with each bite. So family, please stop adding oil to your pasta water. You just have to constantly stir it, not aggressively, but gently to make sure the pasta is not sticking to each other because the starch is going to want to make it stick. We have to toss it and stir it just a bit to make sure that doesn't happen. So you're just going to come in here and give it a stir. Make sure all the pasta is separated and not clumping together. Now if it clumps together, it's not the end of the world. We can fix that. But if we can prevent it, that's even better. I'm We'll let that cook for about 5 to 7 minutes, just so it's al dente. I'm going to strain the pasta in the strainer that's sitting in the sink. I have a tablespoon of butter. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. This is some Italian dressing mix. I've said this before. My daughter, Barbara, when she makes Alfredo sauce, she said this is actually better than the Italian seasoning mix. So I'm going to add about 1.5 teaspoons, a pinch of salt, and a small pinch of pepper. I just want to bloom those herbs and spices so we can get the max flavor from them. Oh, family, that smells so good already. This is going to be something new to us. I'm going to brown this butter just a bit. Not burn it, but brown it. Just so it has a little more color than normal. That's probably going to take about 2 or 3 minutes. That's going to help us build some deep flavor, some umami to our Alfredo sauce. And I think that'd be interesting. I think that's good enough. So I have almost a pint of heavy cream. I want to heat that milk up, or the heavy cream. Then we're going to add some Parmesan cheese. I'm liking the color of that Alfredo. Because we toasted the butter and the oil with the herbs and spices, it changed the color. That is so pretty. I'm going to turn the burner down to a medium-low right in the middle. Now, unlike other sauces where we would build a roux, and that's an equal fat to equal flour, then we add our liquid, we don't have to do that with Alfredo. The pasta is starchy, and that's going to add the thickening agent we need for our Alfredo sauce. I have a 1 cup measure Parmesan cheese. I want to add that in. And family, that is all it takes to make Alfredo sauce. Heavy cream, any spices or herbs you like, Parmesan cheese. I'm going to cook that until the Parmesan cheese melts. Then we can add our cooked pasta. Broccoli is still in the oven. And our fettuccine, I did not rinse this. I don't want to rinse my pasta because I'm basically washing away the starch right down the drain, and I want it in the pasta. Oh, look at that, family. It's beautiful. I'm going to turn the burner off. Put the lid on. Okay, the broccoli has thawed, but it hasn't charred yet, and I still want some color on it. Okay, so I just gave it a little toss. This is going to go back in the oven, probably for about another 30 minutes. So I have some sourdough bread that I cooked in the 2-pound loaf pan. I want to go ahead and make some garlic bread. So I'm going to give it a good smear of butter. I'm going to put just a little pepper. I like pepper on my garlic bread. Then I have some garlic powder. Probably a total of a half of a teaspoon. Perfect. The fettuccine alfredo is ready for us, but we're not quite ready. Still waiting on that broccoli to finish cooking. I enjoy vegetables in my alfredo sauce, so that's why I cook it on the side. The garlic bread, we're not going to put in the oven until the broccoli is almost ready, because this is only going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. So I'll bring you back when we're ready to assemble this delicious dish. The broccoli is beautifully colored. There's some brown bits on it. Gorgeous. And the garlic bread's ready. Fettuccine Alfredo with toasted butter and herbs and spices. Family. That's going to be beautiful. And some toasted broccoli and garlic bread. And if your family is like my family, one person likes one thing where another person doesn't care that much for it, we put it on the side, and that way we both get what we want. Husband has fettuccine alfredo. Family, I just realized I forgot to add chicken to the fettuccine. That's okay, we'll save it for another meal. We're just going to have fettuccine alfredo. No chicken. It's okay. I feel like I need to remake this video. Let's try some pasta with some toasted butter. That is really good. And some broccoli. I'm happy with that. And then our bread. We might have to revisit this dish because I did forget the chicken. I was more focused on browning the butter and toasting those seasonings than I was about making the dish. So we might have to revisit this later this week. Possibly with a different pasta. Unless we make homemade pasta. We can do that. We'll make it with homemade pasta. Well, the husband and I are going to sit down and have dinner. We're having fettuccine alfredo without the chicken, broccoli, and garlic bread. I'll see you the next time we get in the kitchen. Make another delicious meal. Good morning, family. Before we start today, I want to talk about last night's dinner. That is the thing about food. Unless you burn it beyond recognition, it is still edible. It is still food. Yes, I forgot the chicken in the fettuccine alfredo, but that's okay. We ate the fettuccine without the chicken. I put the broccoli in mine. The husband's not a fan of broccoli, but it was still edible. Now I'm thinking this weekend, which is only like 3 days away, I think this weekend I'm going to revisit that menu choice, and we're going to make it with homemade noodles, and we're going to remember the chicken. But today, we need to get started. I'm making breakfast. We're going to have biscuits and gravy. Yes, I have biscuits in the freezer, but it's been a while since we've made fresh biscuits for that day, so I figured I'd bring you along while we make some biscuits, sausage gravy, and sit down and have a delicious breakfast. But first, I need to get the oven preheated to 350 degrees. And I always make sure the oven is empty, because sometimes when my stovetop gets a little crowded with bacon sheets and cast iron skillets and stuff like that, I tend to just put it in the oven when I'm not using it. Let me check it, and then we're going to turn it on. Good. It is empty. Oven is on, 350. I have been awake for 3 hours now. I know, it's insane. I always wake up early. Went ahead and started a double batch of sourdough bread. We have a little bit of bread left. This bread is actually going to be a little different. I am going to make a loaf bread with part of this. Part of this we're going to do something different. But we need to leave it right here, let it do its bulk fermentation, and then we'll deal with that tonight. but I need to make biscuits. So the first thing we need is 3/4 cups of milk and a tablespoon of white distilled vinegar. Now if you have buttermilk, that'd be perfect. That's not something I usually have in-house. So just adding vinegar to your milk will sour your milk just fine. I have a cast iron skillet. I want to give it a good smear of butter. That looks good. Set that aside. 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. We'll mix that together. And I have 4 ounces of butter, or 1 stick of butter, just broken up into little pieces. And I have a pastry cutter. I just want to break that butter into little pieces. Mix it in this flour mixture. Now if you're new using a pastry cutter, what you're doing is you have your flour and your butter in your bowl. You're going in there and you're rocking it back and forth, just like this. Then you're going to take your fingers, run it along the blades. It's not really sharp, but the cuts in here to make sure you get all the butter chunks out. And you're going to continue that process until your butter or your fat that you're using is broken into your flour mixture. I'm just rocking back and forth. Cleaning out my tines right here. And continue. You want to make sure your butter is broken down to about a pea size. All right, I think that is good. Now we're going to add our sour milk. We're going to stir that in just until we get everything incorporate. We have no dry flour and no milk just standing around. Everything has to be well incorporated. Perfect. Let me clean up a bit. So I'm going to put some flour down on my bench, on my countertop. When you're working on a station and you're making any kind of a dough, it's called a bench. Now we're going to go ahead and remove our biscuit mix on our bench. Now, unlike yeast bread or sourdough bread, you don't want to overwork your dough. Biscuit dough is very tender. Overworking it will cause it to harden and dry out. So all I'm going to do is shape it into a rectangle, put a little bit of flour on the top. And you can use a rolling pin if you like, but I find my hands do just fine with this dough. I'm not kneading it. And you can feel the butter in there. That's going to melt into some deliciousness while it's cooking. I'm trying to keep it in a rectangle as much as possible. Now I'm going to fold it into thirds and fold it into thirds. Let's pick it up and make sure it's not sticking in the bottom, which mine is. Again, we're going to flatten it out. And doing these folds actually gives you your layers, those flaky layers when you open up a biscuit. That's what we're creating right now. And now I'm going to fold it in thirds the opposite way. Perfect. Now this is where we just fold it. I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to flatten it out again. Just make sure it's not sticking to your bench. If I had to guess, I would say we want to go about 10 inches by 6 inches. And you can see the clumps of butter in there. Family, when that butter melts, and it releases its moisture in your biscuits, it's going to make it so light and fluffy. All right, that looks good to me. Make sure it's not sticking. It is not. Now you can use round biscuit cutters if you like. I find that just a little tedious because then the leftovers you have to put back together, do the whole fold, press out, fold, press out, and cut more biscuits. I don't deal with that. I actually cut mine in squares. So I'm cutting it in half the long way. And then I'm going to cut it into quarters. Now we have 4 pieces, and each one of these pieces I'm going to cut into 3. Place that into our prepared cast iron skillet. We're going to have to rearrange our biscuits to make sure we can get all 12 in here. It's going to be fine, family. I'm just shrinking them up a little bit so I can get them all in this pan. So I'm just squeezing the sides in just a bit. Look at that, we did it. Now this is going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 25-30 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for 25. We'll check on them. If they're ready, we'll take them out. If not, we'll extend the time. Let me clean up a bit, and then we'll move to the stove and start making some sausage gravy. So I have some bacon grease. Every time we cook bacon, we save the grease. And we'll get it in this pan, get that melted. I have a half a pound of sausage. This is a homemade sausage. Store-bought sausage will be fine, whatever brand you like. And I'm just going to cook that until the sausage is brown before we build our gravy. So I have a little bit of fat in here. And the reason I add bacon fat to my sausage is because my sausage is not fat. It's very lean. So I have to add some sort of a fat to it to get it to cook correctly. But I'm gonna add another teaspoon of bacon fat because we're gonna need fat and flour to make a roux. So I want to make 2 cups of gravy. So we need 2 tablespoons of a fat and 2 tablespoons of flour. Probably a little bit more than 2 tablespoons, but that's okay. Now I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of flour. And I just want to cook that flour for about a minute. And the burnt bits on the bottom of the pan, don't worry about that. That is flavor. It is actually called fond. And when we add our liquid to it, in this case milk, we can scrape that up and incorporate that in our gravy, and that is going to be pure flavor. So I have 2 cups of milk. We're going to add that in very slowly. We don't want clumpy gravy. Get that mixed in with the flour. And we're scraping the bottom, make sure we get that flavor back into the gravy. I'm gonna turn the heat down to a medium-low. When the milk heats up, it'll activate the roux that we just made, and it'll thicken up beautiful. Because we're making a sawmill pepper type gravy, we want to add a good pinch of pepper and a pinch of salt. Once that gravy thickens up, we'll taste it, see if we need to add anything else to it. That is how easy it is to make gravy, family. Stop buying those packets. Stop buying the jar of gravy. If you have flour and you have a fat and you have a liquid, it could be broth, it could be water, it could be milk, anything that's a liquid. It's super easy to make. The ratio is 1-1-1. 1 tablespoon of fat, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 cup of liquid. In this case, we double that. So we have 2 tablespoons of fat, 2 tablespoons of flour, and we added 2 cups of milk. And if it's too thick, we can add more milk. If it's too thin, we can make a cornstarch slurry. You would take anywhere between a teaspoon to a tablespoon of cornstarch, add equal amount of water, mix that together, and then you can add it to your hot liquids and it will thicken up. I say between a teaspoon and a tablespoon because it depends on how much you need to thicken up your sauce. Look how easy that was, family. And we still have 13 minutes left of the original 25 minutes on the biscuits. So in about 15 minutes, we're going to have breakfast. And look how thick that is. I'm so happy. I do want to taste it for salt and pepper. It needs salt. And just a little bit more pepper. See how thick that got? Family, it is so simple. We just made gravy with real ingredients. No artificial flavoring, no natural flavoring. Y'all know my opinion on that. It's real flavoring. There is a difference between natural, artificial, and real flavoring. I'm gonna turn that down on low. Can you see that, family? Beautiful. I'm gonna taste it one more time. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We have 11 minutes left on the biscuits, but look how big and puffy they got. Family, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So the biscuits were in the oven for a total of 27 minutes. So I did have to extend it for 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and make a plate for the husband. and a plate for us. Nice and hot. The biscuits are cooked to perfection. They're light, they're fluffy. It's beautiful. The gravy is at the perfect consistency. I did add about a half a cup more of milk just to thin it out a little bit, and it's perfect. So we got to figure out what we're going to do for dinner tonight. We have enough of the fettuccine to get us through lunch, and then we got to figure out for something for dinner. Bring you back when we're ready to decide on that. Well, it's time to cook dinner. Tonight we're going to have tacos. We're going to do our usual double deckers, but we're also going to have Spanish rice. So we're going to get started with that. Get the rice going, get that in the Instant Pot, and then we're going to make some pico. I bought all the vegetables today so we can make some pico de gallo. So I have the Instant Pot insert right here. I'm going to add a cup of rice. My can's upside down, I'm sorry. I have a 4-ounce can of green chilies. A 14.5-ounce can of diced tomatoes. A pint-sized jar or 2 cups of chicken broth. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, a pinch of pepper, and this is some homemade taco seasoning. I'll leave a recipe in the description below. Go check it out. But I'm going to add 2 teaspoons. Give that a swish. I'm going to put this inside the Instant Pot base. Hit the rice button. It's going to build up pressure. Once the pressure is where it needs to be, it'll set the timer for 12 minutes. We're going to let it natural release. And now we're going to make some pico de gallo. So I stopped by Lidl's and I picked up a little bushel of cilantro. I have 6 tomatoes. These are Roma tomatoes. And we have 5 very large jalapenos. I have 4 very small limes. I'm not sure if I want to need them all, but whatever we don't use, we can find use for it later. And I have some red onions. First, we're going to take care of the tomatoes. I've already washed all the vegetables. So I have a scrap bowl right here. I am going to remove as much of the seeds and any of the juices that will prevent the pico from getting too soggy. So I'm just running my finger right where the seeds are. So I'm chopping the tops, and that's the only thing we're going to throw away. I'm cutting around where the stem would have been. And I'm putting that in my bowl. And the tomatoes, I'm going to slice them into juliennes. And then I'm going to go back and slice it the other way, and we'll have nice, perfect diced. Now, depending on how hot you want your pico, you can leave all the seeds and the jalapenos, part of the seeds, or like me, none of the seeds. The seeds and the ribs is where all the spices to the jalapenos live. So I'm just taking a spoon. Remove all the ribs and all the seeds. And we're going to do the same way, cut them into juliennes. And then dice them. Now, if you don't like hot peppers or jalapenos, you can use green peppers. I know people that aren't a big fan, go use green peppers. I know people that will half it with green peppers and jalapenos just to get that pepper, but a little bit on the mild side. It's okay. So this is a fairly small onion. I'm going to go ahead and just use 1 whole onion. Oh, that is a potent onion. And now the cilantro. So I'm just rocking my knife back and forth just to break them up into little bitty pieces. Now we're going to take care of the limes. So I'm going to cut them in half. We're going to start with 2. We'll see if that's good enough. So I take a fork, put it right in the center, and then I squeeze the lime and move the fork around. We're going to add some salt. And this is not traditional, but I do like pepper in my pico. I'm going to give that a little toss. We'll take a tomato and taste it. I think it needs 1 more lime. I'm gonna put the pico in the refrigerator while we cook everything else. Let me clean up a bit. We'll move over to the stove and we'll get started on the taco meat. So I have the standard size stainless steel skillet on the stove. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil. Burner is on medium. I do have the oven preheating to 350 degrees so we can warm our taco shells. And I have 1 pound of ground beef. I'm going to cook this hamburger until it's completely done, no pink at all. Our hamburger is done. There's no more pink. I have a tablespoon of frozen tomato paste. When I open up a can of tomato paste, if I don't use that whole can, I portion it into 1 tablespoon measure, put it in parchment paper, and I stick it in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. Some more homemade taco seasoning. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons. And about 1/4 cup of water. I want that tomato paste to dissolve in the hamburger. The water is just to help get everything moving. It will evaporate off and you won't even know it's there. I'm going to turn it down to a medium-low and let that tomato paste heat up. So I have 7 hard tacos and 7 soft corn tortillas that I want to put in the oven to warm them up. And I have aluminum foil inside the hard shells because I find that when I warm them up and bring them out of the oven, as they cool, they want to close. And when they close, it's hard to get the toppings in there without breaking the shells. I save the aluminum foil. I keep it in a Ziploc bag, keep that in the pantry, and every time we have tacos, I know I have aluminum foil and I don't have to waste it. So this is going to go in the oven for about 5 minutes. I'm going to turn the corn tortillas and then we'll cook it for another minute or 2. I don't want to overcook them. And our rice had natural release. I just heard the button go down. Look at that, family. Perfect. Okay, let's build some tacos, family. So I have the soft tacos, some refried beans, one of my taco shells broke, but that is okay. We're going to put some seasoned hamburger right inside there. Put some cheese. And this is some sharp cheddar cheese. And some of our homemade pico. I'm losing all my toppings. Okay, some of our Spanish rice. So let's taste the Spanish rice. So that was just diced green chilies, the little 4-ounce can, a can of diced tomatoes, a cup of rice, 2 cups of chicken stock, salt and pepper, and a little bit of taco seasoning. Family, that is really good. Perfect flavor. And our double-decker tacos with the soft corn tortillas, refried beans, hard tortillas, meat, cheese, and some homemade pico de gallo. That's the perfect way to end what we ate this week. So if you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up. While you're at it, please go ahead and subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you part of the Grammy family. We put videos out 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Tuesday is usually whatever we got going on at that time. Thursday is a Sweet Thursday. We try to come up with a creative way of making something healthy, sweet, and delicious. Saturday is always what we ate this week. So until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Don't forget to check the description below and have all the recipes for everything we cooked this week, including links if we used recipes from the internet will be also in there, and the recipe to our homemade taco seasoning will also be there. So until next time, have a blessed day, family. You know what I forgot to do? The fetty up. Ooh, what the heck was that? I forgot to add the chicken.